Today's video is about something strange in Japan. It's very positive, and it's private teaching. It's the industry of private English lessons. Getting contacted by students in Japan who want to improve their English for a number of reasons. Tons of different ages, all kinds of different students. But it's strange because, well, imagine just sitting and talking to someone or a child for an hour and getting paid for it. So, English is a big industry in Japan. These private lessons, you think, oh wow, you got to prepare, and maybe you need some books, you need some textbooks, or you need to be, reviewing your grammar and gerunds and infinitives and superlatives, comparatives, and all the grammar stuff, the tenses. But you don't. You basically need nothing to teach these private English lessons in Japan, because mostly it's just sitting and talking to people. It's just sitting down at a cafe or somewhere else and just talking to people for an hour. It's kind of crazy. It's like, you can just go talk to someone and they give you money. It's true, and it's a big industry here in Japan. So my Japanese friends are jealous, some of them, and they're like, oh, you're a native English speaker, it's so easy for you to find work here, and in different English teaching roles, but also these private lessons, right? And my friend's right. Like, you can just come here, you can get on a teaching website, a private English teacher website, and Japanese people will start contacting you. Hey, let's meet, I want to practice this, I need to use English for this, and it's kind of amazing. It's a really nice supplemental income to your normal job. It's very flexible, it's open. In a little bit, I'll talk about who are these students, who are these Japanese people looking for private teachers in Japan. And I got some good stories, some crazy stories. So I'll go over those students in a bit. But first, I'll talk about kind of the groundwork and my first experience teaching an English lesson. This was years ago. This was like a long time ago, back in my country, when I first heard about this in my country. And I was like, what? You can just meet someone and teach English? And in my country, of course, everyone speaks English. So that really shocked me that there would be people willing to pay for that. So as a test, I did my first private English lesson in my country. I put up an ad on the website, not on a website, but just online on a popular site, services provided or something like this, English teacher, here's my price, da 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 da. And I thought, well, I'll just see what happens, I didn't even think anyone would contact me, but actually I was contacted by a student, and we met at a library, and we got a private room in a library, and they paid me. I think it was like $25 or something, $20, I can't remember, but they paid me. And like, I didn't even do anything. I remember I had brought a bunch of materials just to, look professional and look the part. But basically, the person, it was a woman, I think she was from China. She didn't care about anything, and it was just a free talk, free conversation type lesson, and I was like, wow, that was weird. I can't believe it worked. And I can't believe you can just sit here and just talk to someone and they'll pay you for it. Fast forward to Japan many years later. So now I'm in Japan, and I heard about this again. Not my work at the time, but the supplemental income sounded enticing, right? So I was like, I'll give it a shot. So I registered on some sites, some English teaching sites where they match you with students, and nothing for years. Like, I was on a couple of these websites and no one contacted me, and I was like, oh, this is just BS. This doesn't work. I don't know what's happening here, Some of these companies are more popular than others. So I kind of gave up on it, did my normal work, and that was it, right? And so just recently, like the last couple years, on the same websites, for some reason, people started contacting me. Like a lot of students contact me. So I've had a pretty good amount of this work for the last couple years, which has been great because it's flexible. You know, you set your price, you set up your profile on the website, you set a price, they contact you, they email you, and you're off. You meet the students, and you can on the websites, on the teaching sites, they ask, you know, what's your preference? Meet in a cafe, meet at your house or the student's house, somewhere else out in public, you know, libraries, whatever. Shopping centers have free seating. So the etiquette for these lessons is basically it's the fee for the lesson, and that's whatever you want. And then it's usually in Japan, so all jobs in Japan pay transportation. This is regular jobs, every company, every job, that's a standard in Japan. They all pay for your train transportation. If you have a car, I'm sure they pay for some of your gas up to a limit. So for these private English lessons, that's also the standard. So basically you'll have your fee for teaching, and then you'll have a separate fee, your train fee, and it's, you know, whatever station they want to meet at from your station, right? Pretty easy. And then another standard is usually these lessons, private lessons, are at cafes. So the other standard is they buy you a drink. Usually they buy you a drink. So you're kind of making out like a king, you know? You're gonna make money. Usually you're just sitting there and you're just talking to people. Easy enough, right? You're just, you know, talking. That's it. That's all you're doing. And then they give you money for the train transportation, and you get a free drink, right? So not a bad deal. Pretty good deal for just sitting there, right? So what's the money actually like teaching private English lessons in Japan? So basically this is what I make per lesson. So my fee that I put on the teaching websites, woman's waving at me in the window, is 3,000 yen per hour. So 3,000 yen plus train transportation, and then the assumed drink that they're supposed to buy you. So here's the a little shortcut, a little bonus that I added to myself. So I ride my bike to these private lessons, and I keep the train fee. So that usually amounts to about 4,000 yen per hour. So I average, for an hour lesson, I average 4,000 yen to about 4,500 yen for 1 hour. So I bike to the lesson, and the reason I bike to the lesson is obviously for the money, for the exercise, but it's actually faster to ride my bike than take the train. So it kind of depends on the trip. If it's super far, it's faster to take the train, of course, but if it's about an hour of commuting time, and that's nabi time. In Japan, nabi time means door to door. So what is your time when you leave the door, and time stops when you get to the door of your student or at the cafe where you're meeting. That's nabi time in Japan. So usually when I ride my bike, and I used to race bikes, I used to be a cyclist, serious athlete, so I can push pretty hard even on my beater bike, and I haul, I move. So summers are a little bit brutal because your heart rate's so much higher, and if you try and push hard watts near your threshold power, you know, you get super tired. So that's the only time you can't really go fast is summertime, because it's just too stinking hot. But all the other seasons, spring, winter, and fall, you can go really fast, you can ride hard. So your nabi time, your door-to-door time is faster than taking the train. The only drawback is that you got to change your clothes when you arrive to where you get to, and if it's summertime, then you're all sweaty. Wintertime riding, I don't care. Like, it's easy to stay warm. If it's cold, you get nice clothes, gloves, and all that stuff. So that's the shortcut. So basically, my money is, for 1 hour, it's usually 4,000 N to about 4,500 N. So that's a pretty good deal. If you ride your bike, and sometimes you're tired. Obviously, if it's raining, I don't want to ride the bike because I don't want to crash. So I'm taking the train, and then I'm back down to 3,000 N per hour. So, you know, if you got a lot of regular students, you can supplement your normal job pretty nicely if you got a regular schedule of private students, right? It's all cash-based work, no tax. You do whatever you want, you work for yourself, you keep your money. It's a pretty good deal overall. So, all right. So why is this so popular in Japan? Why are there so many private people seeking private English lessons? And this I'm going to speak about the whole industry in general for English teaching in Japan. It's massive. The industry is massive. And basically, here's why. It starts really young. The Ministry of Education in Japan used to be 5th grade. They started compulsory English at 5th grade in Japan before. And it was pretty simple English. It was like they weren't doing any writing for 5th or 6th grade. I think 5th grade they were doing, like, you know, colors and numbers and just speaking, and it was like once a week or something. It was really, really soft. Now, the Ministry of Education in Japan has lowered it all the way down to 3rd grade. So it's kind of getting worse for Japan. I did a video about Japan's English monster, how pervasive studying English is, and how big of a waste it is for Japanese people, because basically no one uses English here, like nobody, right? So it's just a complete waste of time. There's a lot of different reasons why they say they should be studying English. You can watch that video here. Japan's English monster, right? So that's why it exists. It starts very young, and actually it's getting younger than 3rd grade now. A lot of nurseries, cities are helping fund private nurseries to have English teachers at nurseries. So age 0, it's actually starting for 0 and 1-year-olds now in Japan at nurseries. That's young, right? So the push for more English and more English is getting, you know, it's getting more pervasive in Japanese culture. It's getting younger and younger. You know what? The only way they can get any younger is if they start doing, you know, speaking lessons to the womb. You know, it's pregnant moms. It's prenatal English. You know, go to the Lamaze class and start speaking English at pregnant moms' stomachs. You know, that's the only way it could get worse in Japan, is doing, you know, speaking and repeating for pregnant moms and talking into their stomachs. Okay, repeat after me, blah blah blah. You know, like, what? So Japan is basically maxed out on English, right? So that's public education. For people who work, there's a big bonus for professional Japanese at their work. A lot of companies give a monthly bonus. It's like Ichiman or Niman, depends on their TOEIC score. So if they get a certain TOEIC score, test score, then they can get a monthly bonus. So that's the big motivation for adults. And this is for adults that still don't use Japanese. They don't use it at their job. It's just their company offers these bonuses anyway. As I said, basically no one in Japan uses English except maybe the service industry, the tourism industry, travel industry, stuff like that, right? Front end, tourist staff, people like that. So basically, you know, Japan is wasting their time with all this English, which is crazy, you know, and I can't complain, obviously, because I'm a benefactor of all these amazing private students that keep contacting me. So it's like, wow. So, and then there's lots of tests for kids. There's lots of private tests. Aiken is an English proficiency test. There's different levels. It's for students 18 years and as young as they want. There's no minimum age limit for Aiken. So I teach 2 girls now that both of them lived in the US. One lived in New York, one lived in Boston. They returned to Japan. They're both 2nd grade now. So they're English, they're basically fluent in English speaking. Grammar, you know, vocabulary is pretty minimal, but you know, they're native speakers. They grew up in the US. So I'm teaching them, preparing them for this Aiken test, and they just passed Aiken 3, and now we're getting started on actually they didn't finish Aiken 3. They still need to take the speaking part. They took the written part, but anyway, so there's Aiken for these Japanese kids, you know, and Aiken is kind of a bragging right for parents. Basically, that's all it is. If you get to the higher Aiken levels, 2 and 1 is the hardest, then you start to get into some other real benefits, like you don't need to take tests for English proficiency. I think for university, if you pass Aiken 2 or 1, they start waiving English requirements because your Aiken is so high. So that's the only real tangible benefit of taking Aiken. Anything else is just bragging rights. Like, oh, my kid passed Aiken 5, Aiken 4, Aiken 3, right? Nothing really tangible benefit-wise happens until you get to Aiken 2 or 1. So that's a bit about Japan's English industry and why it's so big. So who are the English students? I'm going to go through as many of my past and current students as I can remember to give you an idea of who is seeking English services in Japan, how much they're willing to pay, and there's some good stories here. So going back, I remember I had a private student who found me because in my profile I'd written my sports background, and this student was a doctor. He was old. He was like 60, 65. He was a cyclist, a road cyclist. So he was great. I taught him for I think like 3 or 4 years, and we became really good friends. I would teach him once a week. I think it was like 3,000 yen or something, but he was awesome, super nice guy. I would go to his clinic on Wednesdays after he was done seeing all his patients, and we would talk, just free talking. You know, that's all I wanted to do, is just brush up and not forget his English. So we became cycling pals too. We were doing all kinds of cycling events. We went to Shimanami Kaido, traveled together to Hiroshima. We did that twice, biking around the islands and bridges around the ocean. It's called Shimanami Kaido. It's epic, right? Super nice place. We did the Fuji Hill Climb, which is a race, basically climbing a bike up Mount Fuji as far as the road goes, and that was brutal. So that was one example of a student. So he was a doctor, professional, just wanted to polish his English and not forget it. Let's see, 2 brothers, about the same time period. The mother spoke English. She lived in Indiana in America, and basically, you know, she wanted her boys to grow up learning English. Obviously, it's all required in Japan, public and private education. So there's all this English testing in junior high schools and high schools in Japan. So basically everyone needs English. All the kids need English, bottom line. So she was, she having lived in America, she wanted her kids to get ahead already. So that was Kai and Nao were their names. Kai and Nao, pretty cool names. She paid me gosen for both boys for an hour. So it was 2 boys. Gosen is 5,000 yen. And for that lesson, we actually sat and did books together. We tried to sit and do reading and writing together using books. And then at the end, like the last 10 minutes, it was just playtime. So that was pretty cool. And that was actually really close to my house, which was awesome. So I would ride there and it was just super close. So that was Kai and Nao. Let's see. More recently, I had a student, a boy, who was enrolled, actually he still goes there now, in a private IB school. And it's an English-based school, so all the curriculum is in English. Speaking English is big. So the mother contacted me when he was in the 1st grade. And basically, she just wanted me to play with him. Just meet this boy and play with her son. Like, super easy, right? How easy was that? So we made a deal where I would go for 90 minutes because this was pretty far from where I lived at the time. And so I didn't want to travel that far just for an hour. So I would go and play with him for 90 minutes, and she paid me, I think it was 6,000 N plus transportation. So in the end, it ended up being 8,000 N for 90 minutes, just playing. So for years, we just met and all we did was play. We played games, we played basketball, hide and seek. Sometimes we'd read a book, but usually it was just playing. And I had this student for years. He's still my student now. And now he's in, he'll be starting the 8th grade in April. So I've had him for years, and the lessons are getting less and less frequent. And oh, this is cool too. I bicycle to this lesson. So I keep all that 8,000 N. I get a great workout bicycling to his house. They moved when he was in like 4th grade. They moved, they built a house, and then so at his new house he had a basketball hoop. So now when I go there, basically 90 minutes, mostly we play basketball, but because he's getting older and his academics are getting hard, we do study a little bit. So we'll talk about, we'll work on his writing, we'll review some of his papers, or I've been preparing him for science tests more recently. So that's cool. I haven't had a lesson with him for a couple months. His school is in summer break now, so he's probably traveling. So that's probably gonna stop really soon, or it may have already stopped. His mom hasn't contacted me for a couple months, but super awesome. 90 minutes, 8,000 N. I bike there, get a great workout. We just basically play basketball most of the time, and a little bit of studying if she really needs help with something specific. So science, sometimes I don't do math because I'm just not that great at math, but science, and we've done geography together. So that's cool. So let's see, who else? Okay, here's a fun one. A woman contacted me and she wanted online lessons, and I was like, okay. So we used Line Pay. Line is the communication app they use in Japan. That was the payment we decided on. She signed up, whatever. She sent me the money for the first lesson. We got online and we started talking, and she was looked like 45 or 50, moderately attractive, very voluptuous body. She looked great, my type for sure. Why am I talking about her appearance? Well, she was a sex worker, and she had a specific fetish. So I remember on the first lesson we start talking. Oh, by the way, she can't speak any English, like zero, nothing. So I'm sitting there typing in the chat. So we were doing a video with Line. No. We did a video, I think, with another app. Maybe it was Zoom. And I'm typing in the translated, what I want to say to her. And so we're basically just typing in translations and sending translations to each other. And I'm like, all right, well, you don't speak any English, and it doesn't look like you want to. You really don't want to try to speak English. So I'm trying to put together, what is this woman about? Why is she having a lesson with me, right? And so she was like really timid. She's like, well, I'm a little shy, and I don't want to be offensive to you, but I want to tell you what my work is. And I'm like, you know, I'm open-minded. I'm like, what are you gonna do that's gonna shock me? Like, whatever. I'm from a crazy country, so we got guns and people shoot each other all the time. It's like, what you're gonna tell me is probably not going to move me at all. So, especially if you're paying me money to listen. So she's like, I'm a sex worker, and here's what I do. So she was a BDSM. She is like I don't know how to. I've never done this, so I guess she was like she had slaves, and she was the master. I think that's what you say for this. So she was the master, and that wasn't her angle, her professional like niche. Her professional niche was giving men female orgasms. That's literally what she told me. So her speciality was putting her fingers inside men's asses to make them orgasm. Konnichiwa. Construction worker working on a house. I'm sure he didn't understand what I just said, but he was looking at me. I was like, hey, what's up? Finger in your ass today, buddy? Huh? Yeah? While you're working? Boop. Oh, female orgasm. Oh. So this was her angle. So she told me this in our first online lesson, and I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Wow, you know, and you know, we burned up so much time doing, you know, entering in the translations in the chat part of the video. You know, an hour went by so fast. So I was kind of like, wow, that was interesting. And so I was totally cool about it. I'm open-minded, right? So so she was cool. She was happy. She could tell me everything that she does. And so she has normal clients, just slaves that she whips, and she wears, like, she told me she wears like a black leather get up when she you know, whips and abuses people, or tries to give them like the female orgasm by massaging the man's prostate, and it's supposed to be like a female orgasm, right? So okay, so that was lesson 1. We had 2 more lessons, and basically it was her trying to recruit me, and that's what I figured out, was she didn't care about English at all. She was just trying to find clients. She was fishing for clients. And konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Famous, Grandpa. Cool. So she was looking for clients, and she was using the teacher's website, the English teaching website, to try and find sex work, basically. And so by the second we had the next lesson, our second video talk, it was the same slow process, you know, entering in translation. And this time it was more focused, and it was all talking about her sex work and just kind of questions, and oh, what about this, and how do you do this, and da 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 da. And I was trying to give her tips in English about what to say to people, you know, if she's trying to find foreign clients like me. Like, what can she say to market herself, and what kind of English does she want to do? What kind of English does she want to use, right? And so basically that second lesson, we maxed out the topic. We had talked about everything sexually, and she'd gotten across all kind of the flavor of the services that she provides. And so the third lesson was the last lesson, and basically we were just tapped out on the topic, and it was clear that she had no interest in learning English at all, and that was it. So we did 3 lessons, and it was game over. No, I never did the female orgasm. I never let her put her fingers in my asshole to see if I would orgasm like a woman. So not sure if it works. Apparently it works for her, because that's her niche, you know. So apparently she must be pretty good at this. But you know, I'm sure that the fee she charges for that, oh man, I'm sure it would have been crazy high, right? So prostitution is very expensive in Japan. So easily I would have paid back my 3 lessons that she paid me, plus a whole bunch more money. That would have been a lose-lose situation for me financially. So no finger play on that one. All right, next student. So I've had a couple adults that are pretty serious about English, and they actually do want to study. They want to study TOEIC because they want to get the company bonus. So I have a student now. We've been meeting for about 8 months. She's pretty focused. Here's us studying at a cafe. We used to meet at a cafe. If the weather's good, we go by the river. We just buy drinks at the store. We go sit by the river and save the cafe money. So I bike to her lessons also. She pays me like 4,400 N for the total, and Navi time, my cycling time to this lesson is faster than the train, and that includes the time that I need to change after the lesson. So she's pretty good. She's pretty dedicated. She wants to get that TOEIC bonus, and so we've been meeting for I think 8 months, and we literally just sit there with the TOEIC book, and we do speaking, all the vocabulary stuff. She's really interested in pronunciation. She really wants to speak well, which is pretty cool because usually most of the students don't really care about that, don't care about speaking. So we'll sit there and we'll do like 100 words, you know, and then she lets me read her diary or her journal, and then maybe we'll do a reading section for the TOEIC, like comprehension with questions afterwards. So she'll sit there and she'll record me. I'll say a word, she'll repeat a word, I'll say the next word, she'll repeat the word. We'll do 100 words just like that. She's recording everything with her phone. She reviews it. She's dedicated, so that's pretty cool. So it's not all just free talking and free conversation. You do get some students that want to, you know, they want to really improve their grammar, or they have some actual target, some goal. So TOEIC is a popular one. Another student, I just had a lesson last week. This was a new one. She was cool. It was a little bit strange because she trotted out the same old garbage, the same BS, the Japanese high horse, where they're like climbing up on the high horse. Where they basically want to compare Japanese culture with my country's culture, and I can smell this stuff coming so far away because it happens so many times with students and just with people in general. And so like she got up on a high horse and she's like, oh, your country is dangerous, and you know, you have drugs and all this stuff. And I was kind of like, all right, well, you have Chikon, you know, almost every female is sexually assaulted during their life, and that was research done by Japanese researchers with surveys asking thousands of women, and basically almost all of them said, yes, I've been sexually assaulted, many of them multiple times. So, you know, when I told her that, I said, well, Japan's not safe either. Japan's pretty dangerous. Chikon, right? And she's like, no, I don't want to talk about this. Let's change the topic. It's like, okay, well, you trotted out the garbage. You know, you're the one that rolled out the danger. My country's dangerous. It's like, well, so is your country. So anyway, she was interesting. So now this is pretty cool. Now it's to the point where I don't have to placate to students. I don't have to walk on eggshells. I can just be straight up honest with students. Like this situation that just happened. She's like, oh, your country's dangerous. I can just come right back and be like, well, you know, you got child prostitution here in Japan. You have tons of illegal prostitution. You got Chikon. Sexual assault is huge. You got bad manners everywhere. Japanese are throwing stuff all over the place. Garbage is everywhere. Smokers, people are sleeping on trains, or leaving beer cans on trains. They talk loud on trains. They talk on their phones loud on trains. You know, this is all Japanese men with bad manners, right? So I got this stuff ready to fire off at anyone who tries to climb up on the high horse. Japan is perfect. Giddy up, saddle up. Like, well, it's not, and here's how, right? So this is the cool part, is I'm at the point where I can just be totally honest with students, and if I lose them, see you later. You know, we're gonna have one lesson, that's it, I'm cool. You know, I got lots of other students contacting me, so that's kind of nice. You know, if this was years ago and I just had a couple students, I would be like super careful, and I wouldn't talk about anything that might be controversial or, you know, might bother Japanese people because they're so ethnocentric. So back to this woman. So she paid me, oh, this is crazy. So my profile says the price. Every lesson is 3,000 yen, just to be safe. You can say the price for the first trial lesson and then set a different price for normal lessons, and I'm just like, everything is the same, just to make it easy, right? So we were talking, and at the end of the lesson, I swear to God, we were talking about the fee, and she looked confused, and I was like, well, what's your idea about this? And she's like, oh, well, this is the Taiken lesson, and trial lesson, she said, which means Taiken in Japanese. So I thought this was free, and she had already bought me a drink, by the way, and money was not an issue for this woman, but it was strange that she tried to not pay money for this lesson. So I told her, I was like, no, all my lessons are 3,000 yen. And so she gave me the 3,000 yen in cash, and then I was like, oh, and the train fee also, and she was cool. She paid everything. She gave me another 1,000 for the train. I biked to this lesson. I basically biked to all my lessons, by the way, to keep that, you know, 25, 30, 40% more, which is nice. Give myself a bonus, get a nice workout. So basically that was strange. She tried to wiggle out of paying me, it seemed like. I thought this was gonna be a free trial lesson. Like, lady, read the profile, you know, like, read my teacher website. Nothing's free. So that's crazy. About what she wanted to talk about, she was doing like energy, spinal work, and kind of like energy healing, and she was big on Instagram. She was kind of like a social media influencer, but she, you know, it just sounded kind of like BS, and her goal was to go to America and connect with this other business person and start her own thing there. And I'm like, do you actually have any training for what you do? Because do you have an office? Where do you meet your clients? You know, and all this stuff. She's like, oh, I meet them on Instagram, and then we go and I hire a private studio to do like postural spinal work and muscle strengthening. And I'm like, you know what? America already has all that stuff. Chiropractors, personal training, Pilates, all kinds of stuff. And so, you know, it's going to be hard for you to crack the American market with your Japanese angle. And she was coming at it wrong, actually. She's like, oh, I'm gonna say it's Oriental and da-da-da. And I was like, all right, well, that's Chinese. Basically, Americans think Oriental stuff is Chinese or general Asia, not Japanese. So anyway, I was telling her about branding and marketing, and so basically that was our last lesson, because I was honest about the danger, about Japan being dangerous. So no problem, big deal. You know, I got regular students all the time. I got new students contacting me all the time. See you later, peace out, boom shaka, thanks for the 4,000 yen, and good luck with whatever you're doing. So oh, also about the honesty part, I had a student, this was crazy. So look at my shirt, right? This is America, the American terrorist problem. You know, my country is killing millions for decades. It never stops. Doesn't matter who the president is. It just does not matter. Washington, D.C. is the problem, right? So I met this student, and he literally was doing business in Arizona, I think with Raytheon or not Bay, but some weapons manufacturing. He was procuring the contracts for weapons sales between Japan and America, right? And I'm just looking at him as he's talking, and I'm like, dude, you're basically just a terrorist. You're supporting terrorist activities, you know, the death of millions. And I straight up just went at this guy. I didn't attack him, but I came at him with evidence, and I showed him studies of, you know, how many millions America has killed over the years, and this is what you're supporting. And he was pretty cool. You know, of course, we never had a lesson again. That was a one lesson And that was a one lesson relationship for sure, because I'm basically just ripping apart his job, that he's supporting the mass murder of millions, and he's anti-peace and all this stuff. So anyway, he was nice. I was really nice. It wasn't confrontational at all. I viewed this as an educational lesson for him. And the stuff that I was telling him about all the evils America has done for decades, all these fake wars and endless wars based on lies, he agreed with me. You know, he's not an idiot, but you know, his job is his job, and that's how he makes money. So that was the end of that one. I have another student now. This guy is awesome. He is the former president, and this is like his father's company. This company, they work closely with a major Japanese automaker. So his company basically shadows the automaker's company, because they're doing machine work together and robotics work together. So he has offices, his company has offices all over in America and in Asia, following the Japanese manufacturer. Anyway, so this guy, he's old. He's like 75, super cool. Now his son owns doesn't own the company, but is the CEO of the company. And we talk about everything, just straight up honest. And this guy he loves it. He loves it because he's been the top of this company for years, and no one has just sat down with him and been like, look, here's the problem, here's how I view it. You know, like, I don't see any Japanese people in this guy's life ever just unloading on him the truth, right? About politics, about world affairs. You hear that? That is a cicada. So they're super loud in the summertime. That's a male cicada. Trying to get some booty. So anyway, this old guy is super cool, and we talk about all kinds of stuff, and sometimes we disagree, and he's just super cool. And he just wants to keep learning English so he doesn't forget, to keep all the circuits firing. Because he speaks pretty good English. When he was active as the president, he was traveling a lot back to America and to other countries. So he was actually using English for his job, to do deals and contracts. So him learning English actually makes sense, even though he's not working. He's still at the company every day. He still goes to the office, the headquarters, every day. That's where I meet him for our lesson. I bike there, of course, and we sit and talk for an hour. He pays me like 4,500 yen, so 4,500. And I love this old guy. He's super cool. I think we're gonna be meeting for probably a long time, because we disagree on stuff, but we always hear each other out. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I really like him. His English level is pretty high too. So here's one of the cool parts about teaching private English in Japan is you can actually flip the script on Japanese people and come out ahead. And what I mean is, Japan has, and this is regarding dating and romantic life, he's like, you recording me? Yep, I got you, Grandpa. You're my grandpa. You are my grandpa. So dating. So English leeches. There's a lot of English leeches. These are women looking for free English lessons, and they'll suck you dry. They'll meet you for a date, and they'll just want to get, they're just there for free English. They're not interested in romance. They're not interested in marriage, a husband. They're not interested in having a kid. They're basically, and they dwell everywhere. They're in dating websites. They have profiles on dating websites, and they're really brazen about using native speakers for English. In their profile, it'll say on their dating profile, it'll be like, I'm looking to improve my English. It's like, what? Right? So they're basically looking to cheat Japan's system, which is to actually pay for private teachers like me, or to go to language businesses, which are called eikaiwas in Japan, and pay for proper lessons, right? So they're basically cheating Japan's language system, and they're trying to hustle native speakers in dating websites. And they're also just out in everyday life. So for years, when I was younger, I would meet women just out on the streets, out in everyday life. Cicadas woke up and is super loud during my recording. Gotta stay away. So even if you meet women out on the streets, a lot of them are also English leeches. They're looking for free English lessons, right? And basically this is how it works for women, is it's a win-win for women, these English leeches. It's a win-win because when they meet you, they get free English automatically. It's a win, straight up victory right there. And the other win is maybe they'll like you, and maybe, you know, maybe you'll fall in love and have 3 kids, and that's, you know, that's happily ever after. So that's possible too. So it's always a win-win for women when you're talking about dating, because a lot of them want free English, right? So for us, for native speakers, it's also a win-win teaching English lessons. And here's why. And it's because you can have sex with your students sometimes. It's possible. So I had a student years ago. We were talking, we decided to do the lesson at my place. She came over, we did some talking, and then we did some fucking. You know, we had sex. So, and she paid me. So basically it's prostitution. Like, you can sometimes be a prostitute while you're teaching English, these private lessons. Sex happens. Some Japanese women use the teacher websites as dating websites too. So that happens. It happens a lot, surprisingly. So this is creating a win-win for yourself in Japan. So it's like Japanese women are English leeches, some of them, and they're using men and dating websites to use English and then maybe have a relationship. This is you flipping the script, and basically you're getting paid for English, but you also might get sex out of meeting some of these students. It's just a reality here in Japan, right? Be rude not to. So of course you have to use your tact. You never want to come on to a woman during these English lessons, because they can always complain to the website and close down your profile and, oh, this guy did this. So you got to be super tactful, you know, and sensible about sex if that ever becomes an option, because you don't want to burn your bridges, especially if it's your financial way of life here in Japan. But it's a reality. Sex happens in Japan from meeting students in these websites. So that's a bit about Japan's private English teaching industry. All kinds of good can come from it. All kinds of strange stuff can come from it. It is what you make of it. Apply yourself. You know, you can do this in Japan. It's a nice supplemental means of income, and it's just there waiting for you if you want it.